right, Churchill's Trial by Larry Arnn. I have been on a roll lately with some awesome books, and Churchill's Trial is another one of those. It's a difficult read. You have to stay. This is like a intellectual discussion and debate, and we're really an analysis on Winston Churchill's huge collection of statesman essays and writings that he's written over the years. Journals, essays, books. He's written over 50 books and essays that just put his thoughts on a variety of subjects down on paper, so that probably just so he could work through them in his head, and then also have some sort of historical track record to his intention as a statesman. But I mean, he started recording stuff in his 20s, like early 20s. So Churchill's trial is about 3 trials he faces in his life, and the first was Nazism, and the second was the Soviet Union, and the third was peace. And really, which is, you think, is a positive, but also it's like peacetime socialism infiltrating Britain's society, and pre, post, and during World War II. So, and how he defended against it. But, I mean, great book. Really great book. Hard to read at first. You have to get the pace. You have to get your brain around it. It's intellectual, and it's totally in the weeds when it comes to political discussions, but mainly socialism versus democracy, and elements of Britain's Constitution versus America's Constitution, and Nazism, and the appeals of socialism, but then the dangers of socialism. Just very in the weeds. But if you're that kind of person that finds that interesting, but also history very interesting, then this book's for you, because it beautifully analyzes Churchill and his thoughts on those different subjects, and then how he navigated those 3 trials during his lifetime. And also just the historical significance of him losing elections, how he responded to that, his interactions with Eisenhower, speeches he gave over in the United States at the request of Harry Truman. I mean, so many great history stories from history are also in this book, in addition to the analysis. But I don't have as many notes on this one, just because it's pretty much what it is. I would recommend going to YouTube also and looking up Larry Arnn speaking at Hillsdale College. He gives an hour lecture on Churchill, and he wandered from his notes also and talked about this and stories from this book, and it is so good. It brings this book to life. So if you've just read this book, go to YouTube and look up Larry Arnn and watch his lecture. But I wrote down a few things that stuck out to me. He says in his analysis, Larry Arnn says, and he's going to quote Churchill here, "The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries." This was pulled from a journal or an essay or a book that Winston Churchill wrote, that Larry collected and wrote in depth about, in terms of analysis on what that means. And that just gives a glimpse into Churchill's mind as to how he initially liked socialism in his 20s and found it appealing, and understood that the people want certain basic rights and need certain basic social welfare, but he would much rather risk a private monopoly in the corporate world, going to battle with it as the leader of a government, rather than the government being the one that the people have to battle against. Which one is the lesser of 2 evils? And in his opinion, it was capitalism by far. And so he wrote about all that. It's fascinating. He also wrote in one of his books or essays, he regarded the virtue of socialism as no virtue at all. And then Larry Arnn gave his commentary, "Socialism is only sharing miseries and not blessings." So if you split this book into 3 parts, war, empire, and peace are really the 3 topics that are covered. Also, the 4th that I found really interesting, and this is the final thought, was that there's this whole debate that Churchill had with himself in one of his essays, I think it was Mass Effects, that, chance versus choice in our lives. Is our lives chance, or are they choice? And his thought was, life is a series of accidents. There is some chance in life, but it's our choices that make us significant. And it parallels his illustration of a battle early on. It was when machinery just had been invented and came into war. The destructiveness of that new machinery when he saw a horse cavalry charge and just get obliterated by the British Army. To him, it was bravery previously that won wars, and he feared that now it had no significance because machinery was the most important part of war. So it led him to contemplate, as human beings, are people going to end in insignificance because of the advancement of technology, or even nuclear weapons? He has another book titled, "Are we all just going to commit suicide?" Well, because of the nuclear weapons, we have that ability now. So he argues that it's more important than ever for people to be on the planet in order to make the right choices and navigate politically all of this machinery that we've created that can destroy ourselves. So where other people are in the world saying we're the most insignificant we've ever been, Churchill, if he were still alive, it's been 50 years since he died, he would be saying people are the most significant that they have ever been in this period of time right now. So excellent book, Churchill's Trial by Larry Arnn. Hope you enjoyed your read of it, and go check out that lecture from Larry Arnn at Hillsdale. All right.